Hey guys, it's your boy Densuo, aka the King of Salts. I'm gonna go ahead and get on in with a review of the newly released Döven Wolf. It's a bit of a weird one. It's an interesting set of skills that it has plenty of weapons too. So let's go ahead and get started right off the bat. The Döven Wolf is a 600 cost, comes in at level 1. And before that, let me check if they released it at level 2 also. Should have probably checked that first. I'm gonna assume it does come in at level 2, but I only have the level 1 right now. It's not showing the level 2, so rip me. No way, that's a different suit. I'm silly. Where's the level 2? So yeah, there's your level 1 and level 2 for the suit. I only have the level 1 right now. It is a 3-star rarity suit. Let's go over its base stats, then we're gonna go into some other information about it. So the level 1, as you see here, comes with a 1500 HP, 1600 for the level 2, 600 and 650 cost. For resistances, you have 28, 28, and 10 for ballistic beam and melee. Level 2 gets 31, 30, and 11. For range strength, you have 40, melee strength 20. That's 43 and 22 for the level 2. And they both, of course, share the same movement speed of 125, 205 for top speed and high speed movement when you're boosting, a thruster gauge of 65, and a turning speed of 57. We'll make a comparison between it and other suits in a moment. Yeah. For slots, you have 10, 17, 17 for the level 1, 11, 18, 19 for the level 2. We're going to go into the skills in a moment, but I also wanted to just check and see if it has any differences between the level 1 and level 2. So we'll see that. 3, 1, 1, 2, and then 4 ones. Nope, same thing. So I'll keep it simple and go back to the other screen when it comes to this. Let's go ahead and go back. Alright. So first things first, let's make a comparison as far as its thruster and turning speed to other suits within its cost range. We'll see here at the 600 cost, it has 65 thruster, 57 turn speed. So with the turning speed's actually looking around below average more or less right now. Yeah, it's below average within its cost, at least with the suits I have. For thruster, comes in at 65 base. Looks like it's around middle of the pack to below average. For high speed movement, it's perfectly fine. You can't go wrong with 220. 220 is actually really good. No, excuse me, 205, excuse me. 205 is still pretty good. Looks like around average to above average. For movement speed, it's 125. And with the 600s that I have, other than the Palace Athene and Super Gundam, it's pretty below average, actually. Yeah, it's about below average. But that's fine, given what it has, and especially with its skills. For range strength, at the 40, it's more or less comparable. It should be fine. Although it's better than the EP Goog at level 5, but then again, you probably shouldn't be running that suit at level 5, honestly. It's perfectly fine when it comes to its range. And even then, you can bump it up because it has a pretty good amount of stats, actually. With 17 long range, that's actually really good for a general, I think. Let me check. Yeah, minus the Zhong. It's actually packing a lot of long range slots. It's not slacking in its medium range. The only one that where it's really kind of missing out on is the close range shots. but even then, that's perfectly fine and doable. So you can manage that. So it's pretty good when it comes to, you know, stat-wise. Its defenses, however, are, let's check. You can see there, defenses are alright. The only one where it's really, it's clearly better than is the Tristan. But otherwise, its defenses are fine. Although that 10 to melee resistance is a little bit of a worry on a general. HP is also 1500, so that's actually pretty low. Yeah, it's on the level of the MLRS. Yeah, but the suits that I have, it's bottom of the pack. That's a bit of a concern. Alright, let's continue. Let's go ahead and talk about its weapons. And it has a lot of them, as you can see on the screen. So you have the Döven Wolf beam rifle. It comes in at level 1 and level 2. There you'll see the differences. It increases in damage and range as you level it up. It is a beam weapon that goes via heat. You shoot once, it's 85%. When you charge it, it does not overheat in one shot. When you do charge it up, I'll show you when we go to the practice area. Very good range at 405. Respectable cooldown at 3 seconds, which means if you need to overheat it because you need to get some shots off, go right ahead. The overheat time of 15 seconds is manageable, especially given all the weapons you have. 4-second charge time is perfectly fine. Beam Saber is your standard thing. Decent damage, decent cooldown. Nothing really fancy with it. Well, we'll get to the skills why it's not really that big of a deal. For melee, though, we will touch on the priority. It is level 2 priority, so pretty standard fare for generals. It does have space compatibility. Moving on to the next ones, you have the head-mounted Vulcan modified. So these are your typical generic Vulcans. Nothing really to write home about. It's not the Vulcan pod that the Gundam Mark II has. It's also not the godlike head Vulcans that the GP02 units have either. But it'll work in a pinch if you need to. Comes in at 70 power, 60 ammo, 150 range. We should probably go back to the screen from before so that we can make a comparison. Let me go back there. Let me go over here and grab it real quick. There we go, 7360. Same range, of course, for the Vulcan. 6-second reload, can't go wrong with that. For the shoulder beam cannon, 1400 attack, 90 heat when you shoot it, 450 range, which is a bit more than the beam rifle. 3-second cooldown, also to fire. 23 seconds if you overheat it. You just got to be aware that it you have to stop to shoot. The level 2 is 1470, same range. So weapons only really tend to gain damage when it does that. You then have the 12-tube missile launcher, 300 power, 24 ammo, 550 range, reloads in 15 seconds. You can empty this immediately if you so choose to. You can fire them all immediately. Same thing as before though. It is a stop to shoot. And these are, if I'm not mistaken, vertically fired. So make sure you don't have anything above you in space missions or in ground missions where there are things that could be in your way. So again, that's 300 power, 24 ammo. Let's check the other one. 315, same ammo, same range like I mentioned before. Next you have the chest 2-barrel mega particle chest 2-barrel mega particle cannon diffusion type. It's basically like a mini shotgun, if you will. It's 500 power, 60 heat, 20 seconds if you overheat it. Every time I use this weapon, it fires 2 shots immediately, so it's going to overheat when you fire it. So that heat rate where it says there, it's actually misleading. The thing it says here that kind of concerns me says that it doesn't suppress, it doesn't stagger. I'm going to test it out when we go into the practice room, because if it doesn't, then it's kind of that I'm not really feeling this weapon, to be honest with you. So it's 500 power, although that's deceptive because it fires a load of shots. So we'll see how much damage it does in the practice room. For comparison, for the level 2, it is 525. Next we have the incoms, which are basically funnels. And yes, that's right, we have funnels again on another ground suit, because we definitely need more of those, right? So 500 power, 50% heat, 250 range. It is a 2-second cooldown, 13 seconds if you overheat it. When you send this out, the incoms will shoot out twice before coming back. You will be able to fire them those 2 times. It will not overheat when you fire it the first time, but given its short cooldown of 2 seconds, once the incoms return to you, be aware that if you fire it again immediately, then you will overheat the weapon. So again, 500 power. Let's check the level 2. It is 525. 250 range, in case you're wondering, for funnels. It is the same range as the side funnels for the Kubele, but otherwise its rear funnels outrange it, and the Zeong very much so outranges it both inside and rear funnels. Last but not least, we have the beam rifle plus mega launcher. This one is a whopping 1400 power. It will overheat upon firing. It has a great 600 range. However, it does have a lengthy 2-minute cooldown, and it requires you to charge for 10 seconds before you shoot. As it says here, potent with long suppression range. You can bend it, I believe, to a bit, because you are able to move the camera around when you're firing it, but it's very slow. Hits very, very hard. This is 1500, so 100 more on the level 2. So that covers the weapons. We're going to go ahead and talk about skills. Actually, no, excuse me, we got one more thing to talk about when it comes to the weapons. Let's talk about how much of an effect you get when you run the auxiliary generators. And I also have a separate tab set up for the precision firing focusing rings. So the precision focusing rings, excuse me, if you want to look at the difference there. So with the auxiliary generators 1, 2, and 3, that'll lower the overheat time for the beam rifle by 2.8 seconds. It will lower the shoulder cannons by 4.4. This is the only weapon that really needs a reloader, so I don't think it's worth it for reloaders for this weapon, honestly. I really don't think so, because the head Vulcans reload fast enough, and you have enough weapons to keep you busy. The chest one will reload in 3.8 seconds. Incoms will reload in 10.5. And the Mega Launcher will reload in 97.2 seconds if you use reloaders 1, 2, and 3. So that's a very big difference. That should allow you to get off a second one if you're able to keep yourself alive. So I think it's perfectly worth, or they're perfectly fine to use the auxiliary generators. Like that, you can fire the beam rifle if you need to finish somebody off. If you're aggressively firing your incoms, and that's also perfectly fine. Same thing with this, you can get this off more if you need to. And then this, I don't really feel like you're probably gonna, I don't really think you're gonna be really overheating this weapon, honestly. But hey, it's there too. So I think it's perfectly acceptable to run auxiliary generator 1, 2, and 3 on this suit. You're not gonna be able to fit the level 4, and I don't recommend the level 4 because it's one piece, covers 15%. And it's going to take a truckload of slots in the middle. It's not worth it. You run these, you're going to still be able to run the level 4 program fire. I'm sorry, enhanced firing program. You'll still be able to use the leg armor, strengthened frame. It's just not worth using the level 4 at all. For comparison's sake, let's look at the precision focusing ring. It's going to cut off 0.8 seconds off the charge for the beam rifle. That doesn't do anything for the shoulder beam cannon because it's not a charger. Same thing for the particle diffusion for the chest cannon. Same thing for incoms, and it only takes off 1.9 seconds off of the mega launcher. So given the fact that out of all your beam weapons, only 2 of them are chargeables, that's not enough time. You can spare, if you're going to fire the mega launcher, you are more than likely in a very safe area where it's going to take time for someone to spot you and get in your way. So there's no point in running the precision focusing ring on this suit. Just stick to the auxiliary generator. You can manage a 10-second charge. You don't, that 1.9 seconds is not going to be that enough of a difference in my opinion. Just stick to this. Speaking of which, when it comes to custom parts, You know, I don't claim to be some sort of god. I mean, as you can see here, I haven't used this suit yet. This is just me taking a guess as to what I feel is probably going to be effective with this suit. I mean, this is a general, but it's kind of a wannabe support. So I just run 4, 3, and 2 for enhanced firing program. Then you have the auxiliary generator so that I can focus on spamming the beam weapons. Leg armor because of course these are essential in ground in my opinion. And then strength and frame for just a little more bulk, which will also of course help the leg armor. For space, you don't need the leg armor, so just slap in new model frame level 2, and you go from 1500 HP to 17.2k HP, which is that's gonna save you. That might save you. That covers that. For the shortcuts, this is what I'm gonna run. Again, this is a recommendation. Saber for self-defense, the chest cannon again for self-defense, your beam rifle because that's your main weapon, the shoulder beam cannon because that's another weapon that you're going to be using a lot, and then everything else I kind of have it on the sides. Thank God that they added all those extra shortcuts because weapon suits like this will be a bigger pain in the ass to use without them. The missile launcher, this is going to be one of those things where you're going to stand there and spam the whole thing, so you're probably going to spam the entire thing if you get a chance to. So I think that's better to keep it as an off weapon as opposed to one of your main cycling weapons. The incoms, I mean, I suppose there could be an argument to put that on the X slot as opposed to the chest, the two barrel mega particle kit. I'm just gonna call it the laser shotgun. And then of course the mega launcher, you're not gonna be using it that often, so there's no point in having it being one of your main cycle slots. But hey, whatever is comfortable for you, run that. You ain't gotta copy me for this. Lastly, let's talk about the suit's skills, and this is where I think the suit comes to be a little interesting. So first off, you got leg shock absorber level 3. This is mainly for ground missions. Whenever you land from a jump, it reduces the load that you gain on your leg for like leg damage, like that'll make you fall over and everything. It lowers it by 30%. It also lowers the amount that you gain by 15% after you do an evasive maneuver or boosting. And then it also lowers the recovery time to recover from that load by 1%. Not a bad skill, can't go wrong with that. Not only that, but the fact that it lowers that number by 30% after jumping and 15% after evasive maneuver, that can be a big difference maker if your leg damage is very high and you're in danger of falling over. That can save your life right there. Anti-blast stabilizer, another common skill. If anybody blows up in front of you, then you're not going to get staggered. Usually whenever that happens, that's a hard stagger if you don't have this skill. High spec ambac, one of my favorite skills for space. If you're boosting in a direction, if you stop boosting but keep moving in that direction, you will not do the automatic braking animation. You'll just keep moving in that direction. However, it does need to be stated, this suit, despite having space compatibility, which gives you additional turning speed and additional movement in space, you do not have forced injector. So in the event that you do not take advantage of high spec ambac, you cannot boost in the other direction to cancel the recovery. So make sure that you're holding on to the stick when you're moving in that direction and you stop boosting. You have high performance radar, typically a support skill. It's level 2. So that's going to give you a range of 400 meters on your radar. Not a bad skill. Backbinder special cushioning. This is great because it is free damage reduction, 10% if you get hit from behind. Now, I'm going to talk about these two skills in a minute. Let me go over high performance balancer. This is another classic skill for a general and a raid. If you're in the middle of boosting or jumping, you can cancel out the recovery action by doing either a tackle or a melee. So if you land a stun with the with your main beam rifle, you can switch to your beam saber, knock them down. Typical skill. However, just be aware that this suit does not have melee combo controller, so you only have one melee swing. So if you're gonna go for the knockdown, make sure that it's that good old-fashioned downswing. So now we got these two skills left: shock dampeners level 1 and damage control level 1. These two skills are placed together on one other suit that I'm aware of, and that is the GOG, which is a raid. The difference being that the GOG has shock dampeners level 1 and damage control level 3. So shock dampeners, they reduce or cancel stagger after being attacked, but it doesn't apply to toppling attacks or tackles. So this should basically cancel out you getting staggered unless you're getting hit. by a tackle or downswings. Not sure how it reacts to hard staggers though. And then damage control, it'll reduce staggers when you're hit consecutively by attacks without suppressing effects. So, in other words, it makes it take longer for you to get. I believe what that means is it's basically like maneuver armor, where you got if you're getting hit by things that don't stagger you, it'll take time to. Well, no, excuse me. Maneuver armor is when you're boosting. If you get hit by a weapon that staggers you, you won't get staggered. My bad. I was talking about the stagger threshold, where, for example, if you take machine gun fire, if you get hit by too much machine gun fire, excuse me, then you'll get staggered. So I believe what damage control does is that it'll prevent staggers from those kinds of attacks. So you shouldn't be getting staggered unless you're getting hit by either a hard stagger, I'm assuming, or, of course, as it's listed, tackles and downswings, which will topple you. So this means you should be able to get off your attacks without interruption. And that's the replacement for not having maneuver armor, or as you usually have on a general, dodge roll. So take advantage of that. This is the first suit, I believe, at this cost, in the high cost range, that actually has this. So this is a pretty interesting set of skills. And then given with its weapons, that means it's for you to be able to get those hard hitting attacks like this, for example, getting that off without interruption. So that covers that. We've covered the skills, we've covered the weapons, we've covered its stats. Let's go ahead and see how it looks in action. Alright, so we are going to do this in the ground map, just to keep it easy. Let's pick a high cost suit just so that it doesn't get killed immediately. Or we could just nullify damage, but whatever. Let's just do that. Let me just check what I'm using for loadout. Alright, this is good. Alright, so as you see here, there we see the suit's movement speed and turning speed. Nothing really to write home about. Boost speed's perfectly fine. As usual, weapons that charge, you can once you start the charging animation, you can start boosting safely. Like I mentioned before, this weapon does not stagger if it hits. Now, the beam cannon does stagger, as you can see there. You have the missile launcher. Pretty good range. Fires them all pretty fast, actually, too. You have the double mega particle cannon. Like I mentioned, once you press it, it's gonna fire both shots. There you go. It's about 2K. But that's at close range. Let me see how much it'll do at a bit of a farther range once it charges up. Yeah, it'll do less damage at about, you do more damage the closer you are, but it looks like when it hits, it's going to stagger regardless. It's a good self-defense weapon. Now, this weapon cannot be fired like that. You can fire that while boosting, which is a good thing. Let's check the self-defense weapon. Yes, you can. So, you can use that as a finisher. You can use it aggressively or as a defensive tool. So there's that. What else to check? Nope, you cannot use the incoms while boosting, but you can lock onto them while moving. You just cannot do high-speed movement with them. Like I said, you do it once, you're going to get it off. You do it the second time, though, you will overheat them if you do it immediately, like I mentioned before. wait for the suit to respawn, and then we'll go ahead and do the missile barrage to see how it does damage-wise. While we're waiting, let's also charge up the Mega Launcher. There you go, pretty good damage actually. Pretty good damage, I'd say, also with the missiles, especially because they're spammable, so you do take advantage of that. Unfortunately, you can't zoom in, but it is what it is. So that leaves us now with the beam rifle, with the beam saber, excuse me. There's a neutral swing. There's a side swing. And then, of course, a down swing. Looks like Fetty swings more or less. So that covers all the weapons for the Döven Wolf. You should be able to land a charged beam rifle into the beam saber. You can also do that too. So that's one way you can go ahead and either defend yourself from people or press the attack if you need to. Actually, let me check something. Nah, that's not gonna work. That might work in space, however, because obviously when you do when you boost in space, you can use ambag to not let that work, but in ground it's not going to work. But if you're in space, you should be able to pull that off. You run in with the double mega particle cannon, you get the stagger, you switch to your beam saber, you get the knockdown, you boost back, you hold back while you're switching to your incoms. You'll cut off the recovery animation to move backwards normally. You shoot off the incoms and you'll get it off. So that combo should work. Let's see how much damage it does. Let's try it out, just to make sure I'm not going crazy here, or that I'm not just guessing. Grab some sunflower seeds while I'm at it. Alright, let's go to... I guess resource satellite should be fine. Actually, no, dark space is pretty close. Go do that real quick. Alright, so if I'm right, that should work here. No, it does not work. Let me check real quick. I goofed up on that. Okay, yeah, you can work it. There you go. So yeah, that was just my mistake. I forgot to hold back on the stick. But there you go. That's one combo you can do with this suit. You do the double mega particle cannon into the downswing, into, you know, stepping back, holding back, and using your incom. So you can rotate that immediately. So that's a combo for you. You should be able to get off at least one incom shot. So there you go. Although I think it might not be worth it. May just be better off just firing off the beam rifle instead. Yeah, you should maybe be able to do the beam rifle instead. It'll probably hit harder that way too, and save the income for something else. So yeah, that covers everything for the Döven Wool. I think it's a pretty interesting suit. Just make sure you mind your movement so that you don't end up getting stuck with the braking animation. Or you can just E-brake, that works too. Don't forget that. Let me try that one more time actually, because I forgot about E-brake. There you go, yeah, you can just do that. That works too. My aim is terrible though, so there you go. But yeah, just E-brake and you're good. So, hopefully that helps. I'll give you guys some information. If you guys are going to be pulling for this suit, where as of this video, it is available for pulling. I got it off a half roll, so hey, good luck to you guys too. See you in the battlefield. 6 on.